Good morning. This is the Stylo News Intelligence Update for April 7th, 2026. Today, our strategic outlook is focused on Europe. The security landscape there is, well, it's shifting dramatically. You have a convergence of internal divisions, external pressures, and spillover from conflicts abroad, all creating an incredibly complex situation. In this briefing, we're going to break down the three key pressures that are reshaping the continent's future.
At a glance, Europe might look relatively stable. But if you look closer, it's being pulled in several different directions all at once. There are tensions within the NATO alliance creating fractures in the West, a resurgent Russia is applying steady pressure from the East, and instability from the Middle East is boiling over from the South. So let's start by looking at that first major pressure point.
And just a quick note that this update is brought to you by ProWave AI. They're the developers of the AI-powered intelligence platform Stylo Intel Ops and Stylo News. We begin with NATO. The alliance, as you know, has been the bedrock of European security for decades. But right now, it's facing some pretty significant internal strains. And these are largely being driven by very different responses to the escalating conflict between the United States and Iran. This very sharp label, a paper tiger, was used recently by the U.S. president to describe the alliance. It really signals a deep frustration within Washington over what it sees as a lack of European support for its military operations against Iran. And that, right there, highlights a major crack in the alliance.
So what's really causing this friction? Well, it seems to boil down to two fundamentally different perspectives. On one side, you have the U.S. essentially demanding, help us in the Middle East, and by the way, triple your defense spending. On the other side, Europe is responding with caution, saying, wait a minute, we're not sure this is our fight, and we need to think about our own security. Some nations are even restricting U.S. access to their military bases. This is all fueling a major push for what's being called strategic autonomy.
And this tension, it isn't just talk. When the U.S. launched strikes on Iran without consulting its NATO allies, European leaders were reportedly quite upset. That single incident has really turbocharged calls for a separate European defense force, and it marks a real shift away from the old days of simply following Washington's lead without question.
Now this brings us to the second major development, Russia's strategic posture. Intelligence indicates that Moscow is actively looking to capitalize on these divisions within the Western alliance. They're doing this particularly along NATO's northern and eastern flanks. The real flashpoints here are along NATO's northern and eastern borders. Now, countries like Finland and Poland, they aren't necessarily worried about a full-scale tank invasion tomorrow. What they're facing instead is a constant barrage of what are called gray zone attacks. These are subtle, deniable actions that are designed to sow chaos and really test how far NATO is willing to go to defend its members.
So what does this hybrid threat actually look like on the ground? Well, it's pretty much everything short of a declared war. We're talking about cyber attacks, sabotage, relentless disinformation campaigns, military jets probing borders, and mysterious drones appearing over sensitive sites. It's all designed to create uncertainty and fear without leaving any clear fingerprints.
And here's where these different crises start to connect. With the U.S. distracted by Iran, global oil prices have been spiking, and that's pouring a lot of cash into Moscow's budget. Analysts are now warning that Russia could use this money and the West's divided attention to launch a major new offensive in Ukraine, perhaps as soon as this spring.
Our third key theme today is the direct spillover from that conflict in the Middle East. It's having a tangible impact on Europe's security and its economy, and it really ties together the other challenges we've discussed, the friction in the alliance, and Russia's opportunism. As you can see, Southern Europe really finds itself on the front line here. Its proximity to the Middle East and North Africa means it's the first to feel any shockwaves. And when you consider the critical NATO bases located in Italy and Greece, the region becomes a prime target, facing immediate pressure from the spreading instability.
So why does a conflict thousands of miles away matter so much to Europe? Well, this number is a big part of the reason. 20%. 20% of the entire world's oil flows right through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption there is an immediate and direct threat to Europe's energy supplies, its economy, and its supply chains. And we should be clear, this isn't just a theoretical risk. The economic pain is already being felt. Attacks on smelters, for instance, have sent prices for industrial metals like aluminum soaring. At the same time, people are getting nervous, and you can see that in the sharp drop in consumer confidence. And in economic powerhouses like Germany, business sentiment is down. It all points toward a very tough period ahead. So, let's recap. You have a divided NATO, an opportunistic Russia, and a spiraling conflict in the Middle East, all converging on Europe at the same time. This combination is creating a very tense and unpredictable security environment. So what should we be watching for to see where this all is headed?
Keep your eyes on three key things in the near term. First, the Hungarian elections coming up on April 12th. The results there could signal whether Central Europe is going to drift further from its Western allies. Second, watch Ukraine this spring for that potential Russian military escalation we mentioned. And finally, pay close attention to the ongoing debates within both NATO and the EU over defense spending and autonomy. Those discussions will really decide the future of the Western alliance itself.
For a deeper analysis of these events, you can listen to today's Stylo News Intel Update podcast. It's titled Europe's Strategic Outlook, NATO Friction, Russia Pressure, and Iran Spillover. Europe truly is at a crossroads, caught between its historic alliances and a growing need for a new security path. The question isn't just whether it can handle one of these crises, but whether it can handle all of them at once.
Thank you for joining us for this update. For ongoing AI-powered news on demand, you can subscribe by visiting www.stylenews.com.